There comes a point in life where we think we're breaking down, but we're actually waking up. And in this breakdown, we can feel so isolated, so alone. And, we can talk to people, and we hear people talk about all the time that, oh yeah, I know what you're going through, I've been there. And we hear those words, and there's just this deep feeling in our stomach that they truly don't understand what we're really going through. And everything feels like suffering, and when you look out into the world, it's very hard to get any satisfaction from anything. And we've been told what the right thing to do is, and we put all this pressure on ourselves to do this and to not do that. But these are all physical actions. But before the physical comes the mental, because the physical is an expression of the internal. The truth is that if you're watching this video and you're going through a period of suffering, and you start noticing people around you are also suffering, and it could be in many different ways, that suffering that you're feeling, it isn't there to hurt you. It doesn't have an agenda to keep you locked in some sort of depression prison. But it's actually the very cocoon that hardens you so that you burst out into a new life, into a new evolution of thinking, into a new evolution of awareness. And it's so hard. And we beat ourselves up constantly because we think so many other people in the world have it so much worse than us. I must be ungrateful. I must not be thinking right. I must not subscribe to the right idea in my head. And it feels like this endless loop, this endless cycle of just negativity and depression. And maybe you think back to the times where you were younger, and maybe there were times where there were points in your life where you were happy, and you wonder why that couldn't just stay. And there are a few things that ground you, maybe passions, maybe people, maybe something as simple as getting into nature and sitting down. But what we find is most people in this society, they numb and distract, because it's a lot easier to walk away than to face ourselves, to face why we feel like this. And the whole confusing thing about it is that the whole time this is happening, it feels like you're being spun around at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like there's no direction, there's no purpose, there's no point. What is the point? I just want to be happy. We just want to be happy. But it seems like, almost like the world has some sort of agenda to us, to bring us down and to keep us stuck, keep us from growing. And the feeling that you feel every day waking up, and that feeling within your body that you can feel in your gut, in your heart, the tension and all that stress, and still having to continue throughout the day and put on this mask like everything's okay, and that you're not weak, and that you can keep going. And every single day you wake up, it feels like it gets heavier and harder. And the more you learn and the more you see and the more aware you get, the more pain that seems to hit us. Like, with empathy, you can feel what's going on. You can feel the way people are feeling, and you can especially feel the way you're feeling, and it feels like it's been pumped up on steroids. This life is so hard. And that's usually how I feel day to day. But when I take a moment to myself and I sit back and I take away my beliefs, I take away the idea that I have to be perfect and I have to stop this by that date and I have to do this by that date. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm a complete failure. If I let go of the need to change anything, then what I find is peace in the present moment. And that can only come from within yourself. And that very peace, whether you feel it or not, because I know there's some days where I try to find that peace and it still feels like the peace isn't there. It still feels like, maybe I've driven out here into the middle of nowhere, into the trees, but yet I still feel like the darkness has followed me here. And the truth is that it has, because the darkness isn't out there. The darkness is the filter that's put over your mind that makes you see the world through that lens. Because everything is about perspective. And I say that and I hear that myself and I go, damn, that seems like a lot of work. Perspective, changing your perspective. We've all heard it. Easier said than done. And then you beat yourself up of, why can't I get the motivation to change my perspective? Why can't I get the motivation to do better, to actually do self-work? But if you go deeper than that, then what you realize is that this is the critical thinker from within yourself that's trying to protect you by being overly critical of your thoughts, overly critical of your actions, the way you do things. It's trying to control everything. And that is the very thing that's causing suffering. So what I'm proposing is that it's okay to feel the way you're feeling. And instead of having to do this and to do that because you want to feel better, you want to feel happy, that whole idea is the very thing that's keeping you away from happiness. That happiness doesn't come from trying, and happiness doesn't come from holding on to the need to make so much change that you become a whole new person and you become spiritual and you become awake and you become your best self. That in itself, that is almost like another trap. What if we let go of the need to improve? And my head screams at that. It's going, are you kidding me? You're gonna let go of the need to improve? That seems like the most counterproductive thing to do. You've got to go, you've got to act, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, right? But that noise is the very thing that's keeping me from growing. That internal dialogue in my head, I'm not good enough. My life is screwed. I'm going nowhere. I'm not going to be able to afford a house. I'm not going to be able to go on the holidays that I want to go on. I'm going to be a work slave for the rest of my life. Just all of these negative things. Everything's fracturing around me, my family, my relationships, and most importantly, myself. So what if we let go of the need to change anything? For one moment, just to sit down and to tap into the present moment. Because all of that fear and all of that noise in your head, that extremely loud, chaotic, just static of images and beliefs and the past and the future and your worries and the thoughts you have about yourself, what if we allow it to be there and come from a place of understanding that, and I've heard this metaphor used before many times, is that we are the sky, and our emotions, our thoughts, and the beliefs we have and the way we feel, feelings especially, are like clouds. And clouds never stay, they always pass on. And it's so easy to identify as the cloud or as the thunderstorm. And when you identify as it, then that's what causes suffering, is because you think that who you are to your essence is that pain. But the truth is that the pain you feel is your nervous system just trying to protect you. But we're going about it the wrong way in terms of having to fix everything out here instead of letting go of what's in here. Just let go. Be able to, let's just sit with ourselves, sit with myself. Feel the silence. And when those thoughts come by, don't judge them. Don't ignore them. Just observe them. Because what we have to accept in this life is no matter where we are, whether we're very distracted or whether we're very spiritual or very aware, we're always still going to have these thoughts. And I think the idea is to not identify with them, but to see them as a phenomenon. To see them as just a cloud doing its business. The mind doing its thing, the nervous system doing its thing, because they're all interconnected. And even then, there's still a part of me that believes that's a lot of work, doing all of that. Even thinking all of that. But this suffering that we feel and the suffering that we experience day to day, just trying to get by, because at the end of the day, all of us just want to be happy. We just want to be safe. We want to be loved. We want to feel love. We want the best for everything. We want the best. And that's a beautiful part of who we are as human beings, is that to the core of us is love. But when love gets distorted through fear, through holding on, and through the ego grasping everything and trying to control everything, especially within ourselves, trying to ignore this and only focus on that, instead of acknowledging everything and not identifying as the things that we think, but just observing them and being a witness. Because you're no different from your enemy, you're no different from your neighbour, and I've said this before in the sense that you are just consciousness looking back at itself. Even me, looking at my camera right now, it mirrors consciousness. Everything's vibrating. The world is built in a way where we have these illusions of physicality, these illusions of good and evil, these illusions of separation and dualism. But if we hold true to the truth that everything is connected and everything is happening for a bigger purpose, and that we're not separate from that, and that we're nature creatures, then we can let go of the need to change everything, to sort everything out, to figure everything out, to dive deep into conspiracy, to dive deep into our own minds and trying to mitigate and box away things and unbox things. Now, of course, in daily routine and in life and in work, it's important to have a schedule. It's important to use your brain in that fashion because we've been taught to do that. And not only have we been taught to do that, it's rooted in our genetic predisposition that in order to survive, we've evolved a brain that thinks. But when we live in a society that's so overclustered with information, especially now with AI and social media and the way the world is so interconnected, like a big spider web, that same spider web also lives within us. The spider web that we can't see, the spider web that we can't scroll on our phones, the interconnectedness of it all. And out there in the cities, out there in daily life that we live in, it's chaotic, it's almost disorientating to live in when you reach a certain level of awareness of the way things are and the way things are headed. And it brings immense sadness to see the suffering of people. But even what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a story, because it is a natural survival instinct and it is a human characteristic that we make stories up to understand our world. Even within our own minds, our own journey, we make a story. It starts on a linear time scale from beginning to now to the future. And it's almost like a journey. And this is where creative artists and great thinkers of the past, they've all come to the same conclusion of this, is that humans are creative storytellers. But when we get so caught up in the story and identify as being the character in the story, then that's when we are living a lie. Because in the present moment, there is no story. There's only the now. There's no past. There's no future. There's no linear time scale. There's no clock. There's just the breath of this moment. And I think that this place is where we find our peace. And what's become so obvious to me is the society that we're living in. It's almost like everything is designed to take us away from that place. The constant distractions, the constant notifications, the constant responsibilities, the constant pressure that we're faced with. It's just our nervous systems, they're just on, they're running hot. I think it's important for us all to take the time to really sit alone with ourselves and to let the clouds pass by. To not get caught up in your own story of who you are, what you've done, where you're going. It helps to a certain extent on this physical realm, but you're denying yourself the ability to really experience life in the moment. And I personally want to reach the point where I can experience life in the present moment, even out there in society, in the cities, and to grow that awareness. because the pain and the suffering that I was talking about at the start of this video is exactly what I'm going through, and it's not a cage, it's not a punishment. It's not there to hurt you. It's there to free you. It's there to open your eyes. Just like the moth breaking out of its cocoon into darkness and struggling upwards through the dirt and then opening its wings and flying off. Struggle is a part of nature, and the sooner we accept that, the less suffering that will be inflicted upon us. This world isn't supposed to be complete heaven, because if everything was heaven and all dandy and fine, if everything was good and okay and there was no worries, there would be no contrast, which means that that wouldn't even exist in the first place. It wouldn't give us the experience to live experience. It wouldn't give us the experience to learn, to grow, because there's no growth without the duality. It's nature experiencing itself through itself to learn and to expand in consciousness. And because we live in a society that is unconscious and completely distracted and numbed out, it makes those that have a deep feeling, like I do, feel very alone and isolated. But it's not going to be like that forever. Through the suffering that's coming, internally and externally in society as a whole, through systems fracturing, through people going through their illusion crises, it's going to open up doorways and opportunities for people to let go of the illusion that they've been living in, let go of the false foundations that they have built their life upon. And it is the perfect opportunity to step into that new place of awareness and growth. So if you're watching this and you're feeling the way I've been feeling, that it's all screwed up, I'm screwed up, things aren't going to get better, these are just beliefs. And beliefs, they're not the truth. They're what the mind fabricates to make sense of the world. The real truth is, through the universe and through nature itself, is that you're in a transitional period. You're struggling, which is okay. That's natural. The whole idea that struggling is bad and that we're not supposed to struggle, that itself causes struggle, which is a complete hypocrisy of the mind. Struggle is necessary for growth. Growth doesn't happen through the absolute best times. Real growth happens through the thick, through the fog, and through the fire especially. So if you feel lonely, isolated, upset, and like a general sense that you're losing a battle, I just want you to know that you're not in a battle. There's nothing out here trying to hurt you. Because above the illusion of that separation of things trying to hurt you, your true identity, your true self, are the very things that is pushing you to become a newer and better person, filled with more awareness and more clarity. There's so many illusions that keep us in this mental trap of suffering, the illusion of separation especially. And it doesn't even have to be black and white, like I'm over here and they're over there. It could just be a general sense that this is happening to me. That very phrase itself holds separation and will automatically give you a feeling of anxiety and discomfort. So I'm proposing a new idea. Everything out there is you. And you're just one body of that same consciousness experiencing its own journey. This system is built upon lies, and it is fractured and it will break. And with that comes the breaking of people's egos, the egos that are clinging on to the way of life they thought was correct, the way of life their egos desired. And when these systems break, and not just systems, but relationships, connections, belongings, most people's egos, they're going to go into fight or flight, and their egos will deepen into separation and more conflict. What I'm proposing is that we forget the idea that we were separate in the first place, that the things we owned are even ours. Because when you think about it, this very car that I'm in, I don't own this car. Sure, there's paperwork that says I own it. Everyone in my vicinity, in my family, thinks that I own it. But I don't own this car. The illusion of owning is also a very big stronghold that keeps us in ego and keeps us in separation. You don't own the house you live in. You don't own your wife. You don't own your partner. You don't own your kids. And when you come to sit with yourself and use your awareness, the illusions that I've been talking about, they flow like water, and you can see them clearly, of just how lost we've become because we've lost ourselves. And instead of searching for external validation through a belief, through a partner, through religion, through society, and what society's doing, because what society's doing is the very thing leading to destruction, I'm proposing you come to yourself and sit with yourself. Because you are allowed to sit with yourself. You are more than allowed to really sit back and think to yourself, what really is going on? Why do I feel this way? The way I'm feeling, is it even the way I'm feeling? Or is it the way my body's feeling? And when I say I, who am I talking about? Am I talking about the identity that's been built upon me throughout my years of life? Or is the I deeper than that? The awareness that is aware of this very conversation that I'm having with my camera, with a microphone in my hand. The awareness is limitless. And that's who you are. This whole thing is nature expressing itself through freedom. But in order for there to be freedom, there has to be choice. And in order for there to be choice, there has to be duality. There has to be two things to choose from, right? Otherwise it would be a control system. And in duality, there is suffering and there is pain. And when you accept that, then suffering becomes less. It takes its toll less on you. Struggle. It's perfectly normal. It's okay. I started having cold showers recently, and when I first hopped into them, I was panting, I was shaking, my mind was just running wild of just get me out of this, I hate this, and I was really suffering. And the more I kept having a cold shower, the more I realised that it was all in my head. Sure, my body acclimatised to being shocked in the morning, but that's what growth is. But the mental growth was so much more noticeable. It was the realisation that the first time I was under that cold shower did not need to be that intense, and it did not need to shake me emotionally that bad. Now, I can find myself in a position of being in one of those cold showers, actually feeling relieved, actually enjoying the water and letting it do its thing, even though the past me thought of it as uncomfortable. And we can transcribe that, we can relate that to our inner psyche. We're suffering about the way things are right now. We're feeling a certain way. Allow those feelings to be there and watch them like clouds. But in order to see it differently, you do need to be the observer and not identify as the cloud itself. That's all I have for this video today. A part of me just wanted to drive out here and just speak my mind. Let it off my chest. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm in a stage of suffering myself, not suffering per se, struggle, but my mind and my ego has been grasping onto suffering, and I'm going to allow myself to finish this video on this note and not have to be perfect and not have to be all smiley and end this video in some sort of perfect way. I'm just going to leave it raw like it is, because this is how it is.